Morning guys, this is a short overview for Eduqas English Literature Component 1, Section B, which is your anthology poetry. And as you know, with Eduqas, there is just one anthology collection, so we all do the same poetry. So this is relevant for everybody. So we're going to go do a quick overview. We're going to have a look at some of the previous questions, what I think might come up in 2025, and then how to answer the 2 questions that you get. So as a reminder, on the exam paper, you get the following information. You get the list of all of the poems that you've studied and who wrote them. So that's really useful for you to refer to when you're choosing your comparison poem for the second question. Then you get your 2 questions, and your first question on your named poem, and then your second question, which asks you to write about the named poem again, and your chosen poem that you're going to do. So for the 15 mark named poem question, don't forget that there's always the topic to help you. So it will tell you that this poem is about something, and then it will ask you to write about that topic. That question format is always the same. It doesn't change. So it'll say, A Wife in London is a poem about loss. How does Thomas Hardy present loss? So it gives you that clue. And then there's always a reminder that you need to include context for this answer. 25 mark question is the same focus topic as the previous question. You are comparing the named the named poem to another poem. Again, the question format is always the same, so it will just tell you to choose another poem from the anthology that is about, and then it says the question topic again, and then it says compare how the poems present the question topic, and you get a reminder that again you need to include context for this question, remembering that over 2 questions context presents about the third of the marks, so you do need to have quite a good number of context facts that you're going to include. All right, so what are the previous questions that have come up? So you can see here on the table, I've told you what the named poems were for each of the previous exams and what the question topics were. It is worth remembering that Eduqas have got a new anthology for first exams in 2027. So there are only 2 years left for this current anthology, current year 2025 and next year 2026, which makes it a little bit more difficult for us to predict what might come up because, as I'll talk about in a minute, there are still lots and lots of options. So the poems that haven't yet come up are these ones that are now on the screen, and I think we can rule out some of them as the ones that could be chosen for the named poetry, the named poem, but I'm just going to divide them up for you into some of the topic areas that might come up. Now, this isn't to say that these ones are definitely going to come up, but these are how well these are aligned. So you can see here that there's quite a few poems that come under the list of nature, and that hasn't come up as a named topic yet, and so that might be something that we would look at for the summer of 2025. There are also a handful of the sort of love relationships poems that haven't been named poems yet, and they could reset that if they want to. In terms of power, Ozymandias and Hawk Roosting are good power poems, and of course there are lots of other poems that have already come up that would work well under power. Time passing, which may not come up because that's quite a difficult concept, although you could have the concept of change. Again, some of those poems fall really nicely into that. And then we've got these 2 more unusual poems. So The Soldier hasn't come up yet, but it comes under often the idea of war, although obviously it is very much about place. With it being about the beauty of and the sacred nature of England. And then Living Space, another poem about place. But we've had afternoons recently, and we've had some of the place poems come up, so it's less likely. So one of the things that you could do is go ahead and plan an essay on these topics. Don't forget to choose your favourite poems from the ones that have come up as well, so that you have got a good number of poems that you've revised. Don't just limit yourself to the ones that haven't come up, because then that rules out using some of those really amazing poems that are on the anthology for your comparison questions. So if I was to look at these poems and consider which ones I might set as the named poem, there are a couple of things to remember. So named poems have to be accessible for everybody that's taking the GCSE, from students that are going to be going on and maybe not necessarily getting the pass but will still complete the exam, all the way through to people that are looking at getting a grade 9. So they have to be poems that are accessible. They also tend to occasionally, or kind of about 60-40% of the time, choose a longer poem because those poems are a little bit more difficult to memorise. So I've highlighted here a handful of ones that I think it might be worth thinking about revising in detail, ready for your analysis 15-mark question. But there is a giant caveat here. Because Eduqas are bringing in a new anthology, they can do whatever they like. They can reset poems that they've already used if they want to. They can choose something from the left field and set Living Space or Cozy Apologia, and we can't argue with that, because they've told us they can set any of them, they can choose any of the ones that they want. So by all means, do not think that this is a free pass to only look at a handful of poems. All right, so let's get on to how do you answer these questions. So the 15-mark question, which is essentially the same as the extract question that you've already written an answer for on Macbeth in this exam. You're spending 20 minutes on it. You're going to be writing about a page and a half. You're going through the poem in order, tracking the question topic from the beginning to end, aiming to analyse about 6 to 8 quotes. And as part of your analysis, you're looking at what is the poet's purpose, what is the poet's intention, and you're linking this to context. For the 25-mark question, you're going to spend about 40 minutes on it, and you're probably aiming to write about 2 pages, 2.5 pages. And this one, it's really important that you plan your answer. So with this one, and again, if you're watching comparison videos for people that are teaching for other exam boards, beware. With this one, you need to write more about your chosen poem. Eduqas do not want you to just repeat everything that you've written in the analysis question in this second question. So you are aiming to analyse in detail about 6+ quotes from your chosen poem, link those quotes to the context and the poet's intention, but don't feel like you need to write the same amount on both poems. You're going to write a little bit on the named poem because you've done all of the work for that poem in the previous question, and then you're going to write a lot on your chosen poem. So what might the structure look like for this kind of paragraphs? So you're going to have your point, whatever your point is about the particular topic that you're choosing. Then you're going to do very quick evidence and inference from the named poem. And then the main part of your paragraph is going to be your comparison and your detailed evidence, inference and analysis from your chosen poem. You can swap those two around, and some teachers will recommend that you have your point and then you write your main section about your chosen poem, and then you have a little bit at the end of the paragraph about the named poem. Doesn't matter how you do that, but you need to remember that you're writing the most on the poem where you've memorized quotes, and that's why you need to make sure you're really ready for that. So this is what a sample paragraph might look like if as imperceptibly as grief was the named poem. I've chosen to write about Prelude, and the topic is time passing. So I've got my points. Both Dickinson and Wordsworth use time passing as a way to explore changing emotions. So I'm saying something about the topic. Then you can see I've just got one sentence, evidence and inference from the named poem. So Dickinson begins her poem with, as imperceptibly as grief, the summer lapsed away. implying that grief changes subtly over time. So you've done the work for that in your 15-mark question, you're just acknowledging that there is a comparison there, and then you're going on to talk about your chosen poem, which I'm doing Prelude, in much more detail. Whereas Wordsworth, using the end of the day skating to explore his changing emotions about the change from childhood into adulthood, he writes, in the frosty season when the sun was set. And again, you're aiming to go through your chosen poem in order. So I've just, as an example, picked up the first line. Wordsworth as an adult looks back on this idyllic frosty scene with a sense of childish joy at being out in the snow until evening. And then I've got my relevant context, which is linking to his intention. Wordsworth believed that every person has special moments, he called them spots in time, that would help them get through, special memories that would help them get through hard times. By opening his poem this way, Wordsworth is making it clear that this moment was significant as he grew from a child into adulthood. And as you go into your next paragraph, you're going to go through the poem in order, each time picking up one or two quotes where you are comparing it to what the Dickinson does with time in her poem. So you're writing more about your second poem. All right, so what do you need to do now as you get ready for this exam? It's less than a month away. I would get an essay plan going for each of the topics that might come up and include there the ones that I've said, include the ones that your teachers have talked about, do as many plans as you can. And on your plan, you are setting out what your idea is going to be, what quotes you're going to use, because then you can memorize them, and what are you going to analyze. And for some of those that will be inference type analysis like I've done, some of those it will be where you're picking out the imagery and you're looking specifically at poetic techniques. Once you've got those essay plans sorted, then you can start memorizing the quotes that you're going to use from the poems and the context. It's also a really good idea to write practice answers and to get your teacher to mark them so that you can see which aspects of those things you're doing well and which you need to improve on. So very best of luck for the exam season this year. There are some more videos for me coming on component 2 for literature, focusing on, again, Inspector Calls, which I've already got some other videos up for, and Christmas Carol. I'm hoping to get a quick video on Jekyll and Hyde as well for those of you that do that text.